The Beavs got the win and found their quarterback in Week 1 against Weber State. Now it's time for the first big test of the season as OSU heads to the Big House in Ann Arbor. We'll break down the week that was and what Coach Anderson and the Beavs need to do to get a win against Michigan. Beavers Inside the Huddle starts now.
Everybody be a playmaker. Toward the back of the end zone. Touchdown, Beavers!
Well, there it is, Steve Priest, the Big House. 109,901 is the capacity. They're expecting over 110,000 this Saturday as Oregon State rolls into town to take on the University of Michigan.
I remember it, my first game of college, 1966, right there. It's a big house.
They got a few more seats in the stands than they did back then, I'm assuming. But as it is, Oregon State is heading to Ann Arbor, and we thank you for being inside the huddle. Steve Priest, along with myself, Dusty Hara, and Coach Gary Anderson will be joining us in a short few minutes. But I wanted to get your thoughts on what was Week 1. A win over Weber State, and Beavs offense, it took some time to get rolling, but that defense from whistle to whistle, it was out, lights out.
Dusty, there's nothing not to like for a first game. I mean, you had 9 new starters on defense, a lot of young kids, and they hold them to 0 for 13 on third down situations. Remarkable how the defense played. The tackling was excellent. I want to specifically mention special teams real quick. Wow. The coverage was awesome, and a kicker's perfect. Offense, lots of work to do, but a couple of things that really made sense out of the offense, and we're going to talk about them today.
All right, let's bring him in. Coach Gary Anderson coming to you live from Corvallis. Coach Anderson, thank you for taking a few minutes to join us tonight on Beavers Inside the Huddle.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Steve, in 1966, I was 2 years old. I don't know how that makes you feel, but...
That hurt. That really hurt.
All right, Coach, last week we went into some of the goals that you had for Week 1 against Weber State. So let's bring up the graphic that we had here. Number 1 was pretty simple, and you got that. You get a win. We can put a big check mark next to that. Number 2, though, I want to get your thoughts on this because your guys fought through it. Mental toughness and playing through adversity. How'd you feel like you guys did in Week 1?
I thought it was solid. You know, we faced some adversity when we threw the pick, and then it was 3 minutes and 24 seconds or something like that left in the third quarter, and our ability to be able to rebound there. We still shot ourselves in the foot in that situation, though. The defense handled their business, got out of drives, had an opportunity to score a couple times, and penalties put us in a bad spot. 2 more times where 2 drives were stalled in that situation because of that. So I thought the mental toughness was there, but our ability to focus and be in the moment and play penalty-free in those situations was not there. So it was a positive step in the right direction. It's going to need to improve as we move forward. I promise you that much.
Coach, we can check that one. And the third one on the list was play with physicality and play well in the fourth quarter. And you talked about physicality all last week, and they played that well, from tackling to just hustle and pursuit, all phases, but particularly on defense.
Yeah, I agree with you. They were very physical. We won the fourth quarter 13-0, which is upon our plan to win. So if we do that and the special teams do what they did, we got a great opportunity to win. And our physicality was good against Weber State. It'll be tested drastically again this week, and I'm very excited to see exactly how we stack up against Michigan. Physicality overall, and they're a good team. They execute well. They do a lot of things from the X's and O's standpoint that are very good, but they're an older team, and so our ability to match up with them and play with their physicalness will be important for us. I'm excited about that opportunity. So it was, again, a positive Week 1. On the defensive side, I thought they were very physical. As the game wore on, I felt like we became more physical on the offensive front and definitely more physical at the running back position. Our running backs have got to continue to work on being physical and breaking tackles. There's arm tackles are unacceptable. That's where we've got to get into that mindset and understand that that's not who we are.
Coach, your 4th goal heading into Week 1 against Weber State, whether it's your true freshman, whether in Seth Collins at quarterback or Kyle Pecco, who's been nodding at the bit for 2 years to get in and play a Division I game, or the veterans, playing in the moment was a big one that you guys had to tackle. How did you feel your guys did with that?
a lot of kids did a nice job with that. I thought Seth handled it well, and I thought Marcus handled playing in the moment very well. And Kyle, you also mentioned Kyle. He played well. He did some nice things. So the amount of young kids that were out there that prepared themselves the right way, and understanding that, you know, you're prepared for a game if you practice the right way. There's going to be nerves. There's going to be a lot of energy. There's excitement. But if you practice the right way, I will guarantee you'll be prepared for the game. Does it always go your way? That's why we go out and play the game, to see what's going to happen. But they handled that for a young team extremely well. I thought the coaches did a good job of getting him in the moment. There was no frustration on the sidelines. Our substitutions were very clean for game one. So, you know, well done coaches, well done players in that position to get the kids in the moment so they could execute and have a chance to be able to win the football game.
4 goals and 4 check marks for Coach Gary Anderson in his first game. He's shooting for perfection right now on the goals for the game, as we got a lot more with Coach Anderson coming up, including some keys to the game that we'll have moving forward, what Michigan is going to be bringing at the Beavs come Saturday, and of course the quarterback decision has been made. Seth Collins separating himself in that battle. How the other guys fitting in and handling Seth Collins' great performance.
Seth, he ran the ball a lot. He made some great throws, and he seemed to be pretty poised for a freshman walking in there. And, you know, wasn't many errant throws that he made when he had a chance to be protected. He got the ball down there pretty good, made some tremendous plays with his feet, which is who Seth is. We still have to continue to work with Seth to understand when to take the moment to make the great play or when to get out of bounds. You know, Seth is our starter, but we still have got to be in a position to give Marcus reps.
Steve, as you look on here at the graphic of the stat line for Seth Collins, 92 yards through the air, but what I think Beef fans were really inspired by, he had 152 yards on the ground.
And he did it in style, let's put it that way. We've seen what he does. He's amazing, and his talent at passing the ball, too. I thought he was really special, a lot more than I expected.
As the game rolled on, he looked a lot more comfortable in the pocket, and that's when we bring in the coach, Gary Anderson. Coach Anderson, you said after the game that Seth Collins did separate himself, but the other guys are still in the mix as well, with Nick Mitchell and Marcus McMarion. You mentioned distribution of reps. What are we looking at in practice leading up to this game in Michigan as far as distribution of the reps with those guys?
Well, Seth and Marcus have got the majority of the reps, and Seth has taken more than Marcus. But, you know, Nick came in there today with the 2s, and we had a 10-play 1s versus 2s, kind of a, well, we were not shorts and shoulder pads, but he did a nice job of moving the team. And so Nick continues to not count his reps, but make his reps count. And Seth is going to take the first snap, and Marcus is going to play in the football game. That's we need to continually get plays for these young men as we move forward through this game and through the season. It's imperative for our success as we move forward, and quite frankly, I believe it gives us the best opportunity to win this game. If you look what Marcus did, Marcus threw the ball nicely at times. He had some unfortunate things happen to him, but those are not his fault. The pick, he did exactly what he's supposed to do. He threw a deep ball that was a ball that could have been caught and probably should have been caught that wasn't. So I'm proud of the way all 3 of them are hanging in this competition and working at it.
All right, Coach, enough with our quarterbacks talk. We got a coach here in Steve Freeze who wants to get a little geeky on the InFocus Mondo pad because it's collaboration and works, talking about some defensive schemes that popped up in Saturday's game against Weber State.
Coach, particularly I want to talk about the pressure that Kalani Sitake puts on almost every play. It seems like there's always a 3-4 turned into 4 men or 5 men rushing. Let's take a look at a couple of things that happened at Weber State and the different ways. A couple are very interesting. First of all, we're going to look right here. We see Titus on the defensive end. He's going to engage here and then get back into what we call a zone blitz. You've seen it many times. It's going to free up one of these 2 guys to put the pressure here, force a quick throw that turns into either an interception or an incomplete pass and a punt in this situation. Let's take a look. Just exactly the result you want. But this week, you're going to see a lot more tight formation. And here's a good example of what happened last week in a tight situation. Take a look here. You got 2 tight ends, 2 running backs. We'll see that a lot this week. And a corner here. My guess is when he sees flow, he's coming. This linebacker makes a great play. He's got to come across, bump this tight end, and then make a play to the outside if one exists. Good job all the way around here. including the quarterback, who avoids a quick sack, but nearly, Romo almost picks the ball off, which would have been a turnover right then. But excellent job by your defense and by the play caller.
Yeah, I agree. You know, Kalani does a great job of mixing things up, and the good thing now is we have enough zone blitzes in the package to allow us to be able to look like we have a lot on defense, but right now we really don't. We have 4 or 5 zone blitzes, a couple what we call creepers, which is a way to bring 4 in an untraditional way and play traditional zone coverages back behind them. We have some man blitzes that we'll bring in there, but you know, we're playing some quarters, some cover 3 and some man coverage, and then the zone blitzes and creepers in there, and it was good. In this game, the kids were able to handle the load that was with them. It was great to see them execute at a high level. I thought Kalani and his staff had the kids, you know, in a good spot, and it's you know, we're kind of scratching the surface of where we'll be as we continue to move forward. But the key is, again, it's not what we know, it's what the kids know and what they can execute on game day. And I thought they handled the game plan very well, and Kalani did a great job of calling the game. And you know, the quarterback was running around quite a bit, and he had to get rid of the ball quickly, which you want to do all you can in a football game to eliminate the quarterback. And when I say that, I'm not saying eliminating from the game physically. I'm saying mentally cause him issues so he can't function the way he's used to functioning in practice.
Well, the Beavs defense eliminated Weber State's quarterback. Weber State unable to eliminate your quarterback from scrambling around, making plays with his legs and his arms, which brings us to the Twitterverse. We got a question coming in for you, Coach, on Twitter from Alex Altman. How concerned are you about Seth Collins' running style? And what are you doing in the future to protect him a little bit more? As there's a few dicey plays, but you like the confidence in the freshman.
Yeah, you know, everything is true about what you're saying. You do like the confidence, and it's like anything else with a young freshman. There is times and there's places for everything, and it's our job to continually work with him. You do not want to take that competitiveness. You do not want to take his aggressiveness away from him. He was our leading rusher with 150-plus yards. There's a couple times when we'd like him to make a decision. You know, stepping out of bounds and then coming back in bounds to take on a safety is not the greatest idea for a quarterback, and we'll continue to coach him through those times. But we do not want to take his aggressiveness away from him. You know, there's opportunities for quarterbacks are in a bad spot when they're back in the pocket, and you know, we miss a block or we miss a blitz pickup too, and it's a physical game. So we're asking Seth to be smart, understand the situations, but he is a running quarterback, and we're gonna turn him loose as much as we can, but also yet play the percentages when the opportunity presents itself. And you know, Seth has not done a great job of getting down to this point, but one day in practice this week, I stopped it, had him run a little bit of a QB draw and say, Seth, show me you can at least slide. I just want to see you slide into second base. He can do it. I saw it, so I know it's possible.
Well, Beat fans just need to get a little used to their quarterback scrambling around and making plays with his legs. All right, we still got more with Coach Gary Anderson as Beavers Inside the Huddle rolls on. Keys to the game coming up later. But next, we preview the trip to the Big House. What Michigan offers this Oregon State Beavers team in Week 2. Welcome back into Beavers Inside the Huddle. The Michigan Wolverines started their season with a loss in Rice-Eccles Stadium in Utah, 24-17 to the Utah Utes, another Pac-12 foe. At times, it got ugly for Michigan, but this is a sturdy Jim Harbaugh coach team that's going to try and beat you up, get you in a fist fight.
Absolutely. This is a Harbaugh team all the way. They're going to line up whether it's spread type of formation with wide receivers or whether it's tight with 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends. They sometimes used to put 7, 8 guys on the offensive line in the backfield. He's going to power football this entire game. So the Beavers better be ready with that front 7.
Well, while we got Coach Anderson here, let's head back over to the In Focus Mondo Pat and get the coach's thoughts on what this Michigan offense poses as a threat to their defense.
Coach, you're going to see a couple of different sets here. If you take a look at this, this is your double set right here. You got, again, 2 guys in the backfield, the pro set, and you're just going to see absolutely power football. Everybody's coming downfield. Utah does a pretty good job, but in the Harbaugh way, he gets 7 yards out of this, and that's all he wants.
Boom, right up the middle. I mean, it doesn't have to be pretty by anybody's standards, but what they do, they have the road graders right up through the middle that, you know, they just take everybody on and let's go. Here's your lunch. You got to take it.
Coach, the second one we're going to look at is even a wider situation, but it's the same game. It's just line up, run straight at you. Again, if they can continue to get 4 or 5 yards a shot, how do the Beavs stop something like that out of a 3-man front? How do they put it together with that front 7 to stop this?
Well, whether it's a 3-man front for us or a 4-man front, it's going to be gap sound. The challenge in this football game is very simple and clean, and it's one that I'm looking forward to, and I believe our kids are too, is we're going to see how physical we can be. This is a very experienced football team. Quite frankly, I don't care who's coaching them. It means nothing to me. The matter of the fact is this is an old football team. They've played a lot of games. They have a lot of reps underneath their belt. They're good football players. They've been in a college system for a long time, lifted weights. They've done all the things as far as facing adversity. They have a quarterback that has played a lot, who I've prepared for the last 2 years, who I have much respect for. So this is a tremendous challenge for a youthful team to line up against a team that has 8 or 9 starters on each side of the ball that are seniors and 3 or 4 kids that have already graduated. I like the challenge. I like the opportunity. You have to play sound, fundamental football, and the bottom line is going to see which team is going to break. Can we stand up to them physically? And that's going to be a tremendous challenge that I look forward to for our team. I know our kids are. We've talked about how strong are we, how strong can we get before the season started. We've worked hard on that, and we're going to know exactly where we sit at the end of the day against an experienced team. On the flip side of that, it's all about making plays. So when you have a team that's going to bang it at you, and we're going to do what we do on the offensive side of the ball, somewhere along the way, a player's got to pop up and make a special play. When opportunity knocks in a game like this, you have to take advantage of that opportunity and produce, and that's the beauty of athletics. That's the beauty of college football.
You know, one of the beauties of college football as well is getting to go in front of 109,000 screaming fans at the Big House in Ann Arbor. You know, on top of the big atmosphere, there's another challenge that is playing at 9 in the morning Pacific time. What are you guys doing to get the team ready for what is a very early start for guys out here on the West Coast?
Well, first of all, you know, you're at Oregon State, and we're going to do everything right. We're going to do big-time D1 is what we talk about all the time. So we'll travel how the best teams in the country travel, and that's how we're going to do it. We're going to leave a day early when we fly across all those time zones. It's important to get there a day early. We'll get there and spend some time on Friday all day. We'll get up in the morning Saturday and play. 9 o'clock in the morning is when we're obviously kicking the ball off. For us, is that a big deal? We start practice at 9:50 in the morning, so it's a 50-minute swing. Our kids will be fine. They'll adjust to the time differences, and when we get on an airplane and fly across the country, as soon as we land, we're on Michigan time. You know, we don't sit there and say, hey, it's really this time or it's really that time. We're going to land on Michigan time, and we're going to play the game at noon. Not to us, it's not at 9 o'clock. The game's at noon, so we'll be ready for that. There will be no excuse whatsoever, regardless of what happens. We expect to play very well in this football game, and like I said, we're excited about the physical nature. We get to spend a couple days together as a team on the road. What a great environment, and they'll hopefully get an idea of, if you play well enough, maybe at the end of the year you'll be able to spend 7 or 8 days together as a team instead of just 2. So those would be some special things to do as we move forward, and something to look forward to.
Coach Anderson, you're 1-0. You're looking for 2-0 heading to Michigan. Thank you for the time this week. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Go Beavs.
All right.
All right, coming up next, we give you our keys to the game as Oregon State heads to the Big House for the Michigan Wolverines this Saturday. We got more football than you know what to do with, folks. Friday, 8 p.m. and 9 p.m., you got hashtag Ducks football, hashtag Beavers football. Saturday, you got CSN game day at 8 a.m., and then we wrap it up after the games wrap up with Ducks post-game live. There seem to only be 2 of those that you appreciate, and this hashtag Beavers football and pregame, huh?
I got in trouble last week for me to comment, so no. Wonderful shows.
All right, it's time for our keys of the game, which we'll bring to you every single week, and they're brought to you by your local Northwest Honda dealers. I don't know how I got this, but my keys to the game got first. And number 1, I got to get a push on the defensive line. Kyle Pecco was a disruptive force against Weber State. And you look at what Jim Harbaugh's done with his days at Stanford, and then week 1 against Utah. And if you can disrupt the middle of that offensive line, you're going to have a lot of success against the Michigan Wolverines. So that is my key number 1. Number 2, limit the offensive penalties. We heard from Coach Gary Anderson earlier in the show that 2 drive killers in the first half against Weber State really killed the momentum of the offense. So limiting the offensive penalties is number 2 for me. And third, and finally, continued growth and confidence with Seth Collins. When I'm talking about continued growth and confidence, I don't mean you got to score every drive. It's not completing passes. It's that moxie in the pocket.
Absolutely. And, you know, I particularly think that your number one was important. It happens to be one of mine also. But I love the rotation of the Beavs. To have at times three different sets of defensive linemen coming in. It kept them all fresh. They're really going to have to utilize that this week. You're going to have to stay fresh to compete with these studs at Michigan.
All right, let's get to Steve's keys to the game.
Well, you can see Beavs' defensive line, I thought it was important, but I don't think it's just the defensive line. I think this is the front seven. In Oregon State's defense, they got to bring people, and they've got so much speed that they're going to have to get sometimes 2 and 3 and 4 people in on a play to make a play against a real tough and strong and experienced Michigan team. You got to get TDs and not field goals. Dave Baldwin, Oregon State's offensive coordinator, he believes you got to get 70% of the points available inside the 20. The Beavs got, too many field goals last game. You lose football games, and particularly in a close one like this week. Win the fourth quarter. That's it. You got to win the fourth quarter, and I think that's what Gary believes in and what he teaches all the time. You've got to win the fourth quarter. You've got to be physical in the fourth quarter. That's why they're in great shape, and that's why they prepare for the fourth quarter.
It's easier said than done, too. I mean, especially when you're talking about a team that wants to put you in a phone booth, get you into a brawl inside of the phone booth like Michigan will do. Yeah. They beat you up, so that rotation that you're talking about in that front seven, they got to be really physical this week.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that also they've rotated through on the linebackers as well. Linebackers have played a lot. They play so many people in the secondary. I just love the fact that with all these changes, they haven't just replaced 9 starters on defense. They've replaced about 15, 16 guys that are playing all the time.
One thing that we haven't talked about, want to get your thoughts really quick as we're wrapping up. Jordan Villeman, when did he get his grown man muscles over that offseason? Goodness gracious, he looked like a different person out there in week 1.
Well, we talked about this last week. There have been some changes in the bodies of these kids. There are some others that are just frightening different. Maybe we should go down there and spend a little time.
It'll do my body some good. All right, Beavers Inside the Huddle every Thursday night right here on Comcast Sportsnet, joined by Gary Anderson.